I think, in terms of his delivery, he's very aggressive, and fat phobic, and very harsh. Like I saw him just savagely tear people's.
Savage. He's a savage. He is. Well, hello, Bree. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm like super excited to be here.
Oh, I'm excited for you to be here. Thank you so much for being on my channel. So, you guys, I have Bree Jenkins here with me today, and Bree is a licensed therapist. She's a dating coach, and she's been on the Ricky Smiley show, so she's a big deal here, guys.
So to help you out with your profile and dating, the do's and don'ts, please welcome founder of the, what is it, Gathered Life? Is that right?
Gathered Life.
Oh, the Gathered.
Yeah.
Okay. Dating Coach Bree Jenkins. Good morning.
Good morning, Ricky. I'm so happy to be here.
Okay, Bree, I'm sure that there's a lot more that we can add here or that I can add. Go ahead and tell everybody who you are and about you.
Yeah, so I am, like she said, my name is Bree Jenkins. I'm the CEO and founder of The Gathered Life, which is my brand that does coaching and counseling work. We're at the intersection of women empowerment, mental health, relationships, and lifestyle success and inspiration. I do date coaching. I have a program called the Diamond Dating League, and it teaches successful single women how to get healthy matches and how to turn that into a relationship and marriage. And so I'm super excited about that venture, as well as I do one-to-one work with celebrities, artists. I have 2 private practices. So I've got a lot of stuff going on. And like she said, I've been lucky enough to do things for like Ricky Smiley Show and Bustle Magazine and Inside Edition and a bunch of other stuff. You can always check it out on the website, thegatheredlife.com.
Yeah, and I'm going to link Bree's information in the description. So if you want to check her out, she's amazing. Check her out.
So that's kind of like all the stuff that I really love to do. And that's why I'm excited to be here. Date coaching is such a amazing, powerful thing to help people find love. But it is work that can sometimes be a little bit like stepping on people's toes to get them to change, but I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Awesome. Thank you, Bree. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you to my subscribers. I have some new subscribers. Thank you so much, you guys, for subscribing to my channel and supporting. Be sure to hit the notification bell so that you are alerted every time I post a new video. All right? Okay. So, Bree, my channel, I talk a lot about Black men versus Black women and the issues that's going on between us. I talk a lot about Black men's dating preferences, and a lot about Black women, how Black women feel about Black men's dating preferences, which is I don't know if you've seen, but I've been on a panel, like these panel discussions with different Black men, and they refer to themselves as the Red Pill and MGTOW. Have you heard of those groups?
I've lightly heard of these things. I was very shocked when I, did just a little bit of like Red Pill and the MGTOW, whatever it's called. It seemed very anti-woman, anti-
and on their own way, that's what it stands for.
Yeah, it seems very anti-woman, relationship, anti-feminist, as well as like the kind of flip side of the incel community where there's just a lot of anger and pain. So I was a little bit like, whoa, when I saw some of that stuff.
You know what? It was my first time hearing about it. Like when I started doing the panel discussions with these guys, I hadn't heard of this, and I was like, wow, this is interesting. So basically what it is, these guys have been hurt by women, right? Mm-hmm. And now they're going their own way, right? Now they don't want to get hurt again. They, if they get married to a woman, they don't want the woman to take their money. Okay. So, and then, all they want to do is pump and dump, right? And be about themselves now. So that's pretty much what it is. What do you think about that?
I think it's a really toxic culture. I think it's a reaction to pain that's not been handled properly.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say the same thing when I get women that are really bitter about relationships and say all men are trash and all of those things. It's just extreme, and
Right.
it's coming from a place of pain, and it's a generalization that's not healthy. So I just see it as the male version of like the women who were like, men are trash, all men are trash, eat men and all these kind of
Yeah.
very extreme things. There's lots of decent people. There are lots of people who have things to offer in relationships beyond just looks, beyond just money. And it's really unfortunate that people are drawn to this type of toxicity.
Yeah.
And then, they get in groups and they're all talking about it. And I think you just become closed off from all of the opportunity and abundance in the world. And I can't help that. Like, part of me being a coach, I work so much in abundance and not scarcity. So when you're talking about, you think that all women are like this and this all this toxic stuff, that's your mindset. And that's going to, you're going to keep manifesting that because that's where you are. That's low vibrational energy. And I don't work with people like that.
Amen. And you know what? Everything you said, I agree with. It's very toxic. And another couple of points that these guys have made specifically about Black women is that, Black women don't, have attitudes, and, we're not submissive, and we tend to date men with swag. We don't want the nerdy guy, but, it's definitely not all Black women. I mean, I have plenty of Black friends who they're not like that. And I'm pretty sure you have a lot of Black girlfriends who are not like that. So what do you think about that? That they think, all Black women have attitudes, and they have this misconception about Black women.
Yeah, it's totally just a misconception. I don't understand how you can attribute characteristics to millions of people. It's just totally inappropriate. And when we apply it to other things, people totally get the concept. You can't say that all white people are racist. You can't say that all, this community is that. You can't say all men are this. It just never applies. And so, of course, there are like trends and cultures that come up. But I think when we really focus our energy on just harboring on that negative aspect of a culture, we actually create a limited resource for the opposite of that culture. We're not going to draw that to us. Right. So to me, if you are always talking about, Black women have attitudes and Black women are nasty and Black women are this and Black women are that, that's what you're going to look for. That's what you're going to find. And it's just going to cycle that narrative, and then you're not going to have any good experiences in dating. So you're really keeping yourself unhappy focusing on that.
Yeah, exactly. And Bree, let me ask you, so have you heard of a YouTuber called Kevin Samuels?
I have. Just recently I stumbled across a little bit of his content.
Yes.
Very interesting stuff.
Very interesting. Yeah. He talks a lot about Black women and Black women's preferences. He teaches Black women and Black men how to be high value, right? That's his thing, high value. And his thing is, if this is the advice that he gives to women, and this is how he caught my attention. He says, women are in the danger zone once they reach 35, right? Women aren't finding a suitable mate because maybe they're, they need to lose weight. They need to stop wearing weave. Specifically talking to the Black women. So what do you think about all
that? So, I watched a couple of full videos. They're very long, but he is entertaining. I'll give him that much.
Very entertaining.
And as a date coach, the reality is like, I do agree with a lot of what he says, but then there's a space where I'm just like, no. So,
yeah, he has a lot of good points. Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he has some solid points. I think because he works in the niche market of high value men, people who are in the top percent of earners, have clout, have power, have access, have a lot of choice in social capital, they are going to be more granular in their desire for what they want of a partner.
Yeah.
Right? Exclusivity means greater access of choice, and that's your expectation when you are in exclusive tiers. However, I think a lot of his followers and community are not his actual target clients. And so there's almost a dissonance of, people jumping on a bandwagon about what they demand from women, and they are not actually entitled to those things. So I think that's very interesting. I think, in terms of his delivery, he's very aggressive, and fat phobic, and very harsh. Like I saw him just savagely tear people.
He's a savage. He is, yeah.
Savage before. And the thing is, like, I'm a dating coach, so sometimes you do have to be like, you're being unrealistic. You're being unrealistic. You do have to like give it to your clients so that they can actually find love. He says like, so you want to be alone and die. And that's like such a harsh thing to say, but in a way, sometimes it's the only thing that can wake people up out of their delusions. Yeah. So a lot of the things he talks about, I agree with. I think that as a woman, yes, your dating access is going to go down the more excess weight that you have on you, right? That's just the case. But it doesn't mean that you're not able to find love. It doesn't mean that you're not worthy. It doesn't mean that you're not beautiful. It doesn't mean that somebody won't find you attractive. I think he's talking about maybe exclusion from the majority of high value men will not want that thing, but that doesn't mean that nobody wants you, and it doesn't mean that no high value men want you. And so because the type of coach that I am, I work in the abundance. I'm like, we gonna get in where we fit in, girl. Come on. Like I'm gonna get you together, and yeah, I'm gonna get you together. I'm gonna help you be the best version of yourself. And of course, like he talks about, there is that styling element, there is that femininity element, which is a requirement for most of the types of men that women want to get. Yeah. And so sometimes people don't respond very well to hearing that, but it's true.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's talk about high value, right? Because several weeks ago, he actually did a video talking about what high value men want, right? But before we get take a deep dive into what he was saying in that video, let's break down what actually is a high value man. Now, according to Kevin, a high value man is this. So the high value man has to be earning $100K a year, right, for a long period of time. Number two, he has to have a community, a network or a community that respects him, right? He has to be respectable in his community. And then the third thing is he has to have a high value network. So that's, according to Kevin, those are the things that qualify for a man to be high value. What do you think?
Yeah. I certainly think in terms of because he's in that niche market, I think those are the definitions and those are the rules that apply at that particular market. I think what people probably rubs people the wrong way is associating value with money and influence, and not necessarily the other attributes that bring people to the table. The other attributes that, make somebody a really good partner besides money and influence. But I have no problem with the term high value. I work in Los Angeles. So, I am working with people who technically fall into that quite often, also because of the price point of my services. You work with celebrity, and we use words like VIP. We use words like high value client, because it is a particular, appetite and demand that's there. And so it's okay. It's just most people are not going to fall into that, and they need to be okay with that. I kind of distinguish my high values into chunks. So I kind of have like entry level high value. That's your basic 6 figures. Those people usually are first generational, having more money.
Figures, right? Okay.
Huh?
Under 6 figures, you said?
No. That's your basic 6 figures, kind of entry level high value, So your basic 6 figures, they can afford a home. They have some in their 401k. They have not made generational wealth yet. They're not able to leave a legacy yet. They're still building their empire. They may even have the consistency and the network, but it's basic level. That you're having we looking at you sideways, Then you have kind of like your mid tier, those are people that are making I would say your $500,000 through your 10 mil.
Okay.
Kind of mid-level, wealthy, can afford, a substantial house, can afford multiple cars, can afford to have a wife, can afford for her not to work, can afford to raise multiple children, take you on vacations, have an ease of lifestyle. And then we have our like super wealthy high value. That's like your over 10 million, your seven figures, you know, your eight figure type people. And all of it's slightly different in terms of what they want and also the cultural piece. So I feel like a lot of what he talks about is your, you know, entry level, like your entry up to mid level. He also talked a lot about Black men in particular in like urban cities in the States. And I think when you expand out of that, you get some more flexibility. Like when I work with international clients, when I work with lots of international clients, they don't have the same sets of rules.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you're married. You're married, and he's not Black.
He's what? No, he's not Black.
He's not Black. So
Persian.
He's Persian. So you work with all sorts of high value men, right?
Yes.
Kevin, you know, given the information that Kevin told us, right? Maybe I didn't say that, but Kevin says that, you know, in order for a woman to get a high value man, she must be feminine, right? She must cooperate, right? The high value man does not care about your career, right? They don't care about your degrees or any of that. They just want you to be feminine, look good, cooperate, respect them, and that's pretty much it. Do you agree with that? In working with all of your clients that you've had?
I agree with the bulk of it in terms of, and this is a hard pill. I know this is a hard pill for people to swallow, but men are not dating your degrees. They're not dating your profession. They cannot kiss it. They cannot sleep with it. They cannot hug it. It will not lift them up. It is for you. You know, it is for you. So all of the esteem that you get from it, it is for you. You didn't get that degree for nobody else but you. And you can't expect for those assets, personal achievements, to translate into what is wife material or what is good partner material. So like I have a master's degree. I have never expected no man to ask me about all I had to do to get it or like any of that, or even though, you know, I'm a high earner, I'm in the top 1% of people earning or whatever. That is not what men are not even conditioned from the time that they're born to think about. My wife needs to have all of these, you know, accolades and achievements. He's thinking about the person who you are, and yet your femininity, your feminine energy is powerful. A lot of women associate feminine energy with weakness. It is not weakness. It is power.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting. All of the people, all of the women who kind of shoo on feminine energy and think that like it's subservient and it is weak. I actually think that is internalized misogyny. I think as a woman, you should value feminine energy, and it doesn't have to be seen as something that's insignificant or something not to aspire to. You can be a very feminine woman and be high achieving and all these things, but it doesn't have to taint your femininity. So I agree with him in that high value men do want feminine women. They do want support. I think women inherently bristle at the word cooperation. I like to think of the word collaboration because you know, we're talking, we're working together, you know, and I think it's always good to have poise intact. And I think nobody wants to stank attitude no way around. So if you have that is something you need to drop, because it's just like on a human level, who wants to be around somebody who has a bad attitude?
Right. His thing also was, you know, if the woman has her own career, the woman is not going to want to tend to the husband. You know what I mean? Like, she's going to be so focused on her career, she's not going to want to tend to her husband. You know, I, for one, you know, that might be true for some women, right? Some women don't know how to balance, you know, wife life and having their career. But there are a lot of us who do know how to do that. But so what do you say to that?
I think there's a lot of us that know how to do it. I think, unfortunately, some of the most vocal of us are the ones who don't. And it's probably because the ones that do maybe have switched off and they're actually in the wife mode or the girlfriend mode. And a lot of times with coaching, you're talking to the single crowd, and you're talking to the crowd that doesn't have the answer, but they have a lot to say. So that tends to happen, even when I host things or whatever and ask, have dialogues with people, they're giving me the bad information that's got them where they are, so it is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that ultimately you do have to kind of operate from that feminine energy and be able to shift out of your work mode. There is a balance to your masculine and feminine energy. You may have to have more of that when you're in workflow, but when you go home, when you shift into partnership, you're not at work anymore.
Exactly. Absolutely. And I think if women just kind of figure that out, I think they would get it. They would get it. I mean, you and I have figured it out, okay? Because we're dating high value men, okay?
So, come on, because the other thing that I'm like,
high value man, you're married.
So I'm like, I love my work and I'm passionate about it, but I do not want to be worked to the bone, so I'm not about to be here all day in work mode and then carry that energy into my house. Like you don't even want to flow like that. You don't want to be all stressed out. So I think you absolutely can be ambitious. But I also think that, that's why it's important, even when you're an ambitious person, to work with business coaches, to work with coaches, so that you're not working yourself to death in vain. Because at the end of the day, you want to have a quality of life. And our relationships bring so much of that quality to us. So you need to know how to flow in relationship flow.
Absolutely. And so let's backtrack a little bit. And let's go back to like the cultural difference of the high value man. So so is it that high value men of all races want the same thing out of their women? Not the same thing, but I mean, femininity, cooperation, is that kind of across the board?
I think that femininity is a pretty universal desire.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And there are women on the spectrums of femininity, because here's the thing. Usually the more feminine a woman is, she's a little bit more high maintenance, right? But I always tell my daters, like, almost all men love a high maintenance car. They love the look of it, they love the impressiveness of it, they love the feel of it and the ride.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that they want to invest in the high maintenance. They may not even have the coins. So they're going to get what is at their price point for the best value for their buck.
Yeah.
So if you're not a very feminine, high maintenance person, that's fine, but you're probably not going to get the buyer who really, that's the car that he wants, and that's the car that he's not gonna settle for anything less. You're probably going to get somebody who is attracted to what you're offering if you're not very feminine. Now, just operating in your masculine energy, I don't have a lot of male clients requesting that.
Right. I'm sure. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't get that. That's good. That's good to know. That's for everybody watching to kind of pay attention. So let me ask you this, Bree. A lot of times, Black women, Black men, they will easily date out, right? A lot of high value men, I'm talking your 500K and up, high value men will often date white or racially ambiguous or lighter skin. Why do you think that is?
I mean, we could talk about global beauty standards and stuff like that, but again, I don't know how much it serves. I feel like Black women get beat down so much everywhere. So I'll be like, girl, you already know what they're saying. You know that. But I'm going to tell you what you can do, and what you should focus on. You should focus on the people who are open to you. There was a stat, I don't have it. I think it was in 2016 or 2015, but it basically was like 97% of men said that they were sexually attracted to Black women. And 63% of them said that they were open to a relationship with Black women. Now that is a drop in terms of relationship to sexual attraction. But what I like to focus on is like 97% of men are open to you if they're physically attracted to you.
Yeah.
So you should work with that, because sometimes men say they're only interested in physicality, but once they get to know you, and if you know how to maneuver men into leading them into interest and having that positive energy that they like, and you have that magneticism that men like, girl, you probably get yourself in a relationship, So I'm like, we're going to adjust that for 75%, because an extra 10 to 12% of them may wind up in a relationship that they weren't expecting, but even just with like the 63%, that's not a horrible stat. That's most people. So just forget about that little 36% that's not interested, and focus on what you do have, which is the lion's share of men who say they are open. I think you just have to work on being the type of woman that men want to get in a relationship with. And when we look at that, it doesn't really have anything to do with black, white, Asian, Latino. It doesn't have anything to do with those things. It has to do with what men typically just want in relationships in general.
Absolutely. Now, but Bree, a lot of black women that I know, they only want to date black men. They don't want to venture out and date, something different. What do you think about that? Why do you think that is? And it's very easy for black men to do it, right? But for some reason, black women are just like, no, they want to date black men. That's it.
Yeah, I run into this quite a bit. Usually what I ask my clients is like, okay, do you want to martyr yourself for this cause? And that kind of like, wakes them up, because I'm like, there's a possibility that if you stay with this list, because here's the other thing, it's not just that they want any black man.
Yeah, right.
They start describing a list. He needs to be as educated as me. He needs to be 6 feet tall. He needs to have abs. I mean, and I'm talking about stuff that they don't even got, they want upgraded packages and going into that upper echelon of like, okay, this is a very smaller pool of men.
Yeah.
And you're also not even doing a lot of the basic things that the full pool of men want, but not even to get to that, smaller subset of men. And then we get into people who want high value men, high value black men, but they don't want to do any of the regular things. So I usually just like challenge, is it like, if I have a crystal ball and I tell you, oh, if you're waiting on this guy, you're going to be single another 25 years. And you're going to meet him when you're 55 and he's going to be 68. Are you cool with that? Or I get you somebody in the next 3.
Right.
I never had a person say, I'll hold out.
Right.
They're like,
right.
Give me a man, So I usually just,
at the end of the day,
yeah, you want love. You want to be with somebody. I think like the conditioning of black women just feeling like we have to go so hard for all black causes, even to the point that if I'm going to get married, if I'm going to have a family, then it only has to be a black man and a black family. I actually think you could be missing out on love. Because I'm a therapist, I do a little digging with people in terms of just like, sometimes people want to feel like their partner is going to understand some of the racial problems that they have, or they want to process that with their partner. But there's nothing to say that if you have a partner that's not black, that they're not going to be able to have compassion for you or understand you, or that they're not going to be able to be supportive of you. I talk to my husband all the time about black issues, and he'd be like, yeah, babe, like he just supports me.
Turkish, and he's just, he's all about Black Lives Matter. If he wasn't, we would have a problem.
Exactly. I think more black women need to stretch their confines of what they're holding out for, and really just like, does the man have to come in the exact package that you imagine, or can you really be open to what could be provided for you? I think when you as a coach, I always try to open up people's mind. Like, you got to get open, and that's how you receive love. You can't receive love like this.
Right.
You gotta open it up.
Gotta open it up. Now, so one of the commenters, okay, I did a video like a week ago or so, and just on Kevin Samuels and his whole thing. But one of the commenters were like, a lot of black dating coaches have stepped away from working with black women because their standards are too high. What do you say to that?
So what I say to that is, I think the coaches need to up their game, because I work with black women all the time. All I do is get them to see, look, you're not gonna get all this, you know? And it's like, it's my job to help the client actually get to what they really need. I have a lot of exercises that uncover what you actually need, because one of the most common things that I find is I'm like, okay, tell me what you want, tell me what you need. Girl, that list be all kind of shenanigans that don't have nothing to do with nothing. You know, people like, he needs a PhD. And I'm like, it says here that you have a associate's degree. You know, why do you need him to be a PhD? I just always wanted it. It's like the nonsensical things that have nothing to do with, again, are you going to hug his PhD? Are you going to put that PhD in the blender and squeeze money from it? Are you going to, because, you know, you could have debt and you could be a poor PhD, you know? So it's like, really challenging people. A lot of times people just arbitrarily made up something they want. They made up some list when they were 7, haven't even checked back. You 37 now. It's like, do you really want those things? So like, I think as a dating coach, it's your job not to just be like, oh, this is difficult. It's your job to get people to the place where they actually can receive love. And if they have a list of things that are unrealistic, you know what that is? Sometimes it's self-sabotage, because really you're afraid to receive love. So you got this old ridiculous list that nobody can meet so that you can stay single and stay in your comfort zone. And sometimes that's the message that people need to hear. So I wouldn't just wash my hands of eligible bachelors and bachelorettes just because they're Black and I'm tired of getting them to move. I think, like, you know, that's the space that I work in. I work with people of all races, but certainly, you know, literally all people of all races have these things that be wild.
I'm sure you've come across a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But Bree, so just our closing here, because we're getting to the end. What advice would you give, you know, people who are struggling with dating?
So my number one advice to people who are struggling is, how long have you been struggling? How long can you afford to stay struggling? The same mind that got you there is not the mind that is going to fix it. It is not a weakness to ask for help. You need to get help. I don't think, you know, I think if you are in, he says the danger zone is an age. I have like a danger zone in terms of like, when was your last relationship?
Your behavior. Yeah, that's one.
Yeah. It's more of like a behavior danger zone of like, when was your last relationship? Oh, 10 years ago. You know, I'm like, okay, well, there we go. You got to get some support. So I think people need to stretch themselves. I think wherever you put your time, energy, and your money, you know, because if you don't pay, you don't pay attention. You got to put your money into investing in that area of your life. It will grow. It may not be the exact result that you imagine, but it'll be what you actually need. So my number one advice is to get support. My number two advice is to look at that list and ask yourself, would I rather be alone holding to a cause, or would I rather find love, functional love, happy love, and grow with my partner, or just hack at it by myself?
Absolutely. People need to be realistic.
Yes.
I dig it. I like it. So what advice would you give, you know, folks who are recovering from pain and they're scared to date?
Yeah. So here's the thing.
Red pill and McTown. I'm just kidding.
I think recovering from pain, go to therapy. You need to go ahead and process that out, flesh that out. I also think that letting fear and pain dictate your life will only produce, you know, it's pain and fear are toxic, dark energies, and you can't build positive things from those spaces. So you really need to learn how to transform that into things that you can use. In my coaching program, I have a whole module that is called shit to fertilizer, because it's the same thing. It's just how you use it, how you transform it. You can either stay in your shit and be upset and be like stinky and upset, or you can use it and grow something, bloom something beautiful from it. So I think people have to learn how to reprogram their pain, how to take lessons from it, how to move and shift out of those negative emotions. And I think you need support to do that.
Perfect. Yeah, and you know, I just want to say one other thing, because I just thought of something. A lot of men or women tend to do it too. Black men, Black women will tend to say, if it doesn't work out with this black man or black woman, I'm going to go ahead and date this white guy or this white woman. And they think it'll somehow be better, but that's not a solution, right? Like, just because
it really isn't, because if you're like, sometimes if you get outside of a culture, you may skip over certain cultural trends. It's not everybody, but you may skip over a couple of trends, right? But ultimately, your picker, the way that you choose people, the thing that you are looking for is what the issue is. Yeah. When I did my own work to try to, okay, I'm gonna switch my dating life around, I started yielding such different results, and I was an equal opportunity employer. I dated black men, I dated Middle Eastern men, I dated, Latino men, Asian men. I was like, okay, if you gonna treat me right, Would you say?
I said you didn't do it because it didn't work out with a black man. You were just exploring, right?
I was open to love. I literally was like, I'm open to love. I'm not going to put it in a necessary box of what that looks like or what education level that is or even what income level that is. But the thing is when you do your own personal work, you actually wind up attracting the better matches anyway. So it's kind of like a win-win for doing that work, and so stretch yourself. Don't stay boxed in.
I agree. Well, Bree, that's all that I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining my show. I really enjoyed our conversation and having you on. You guys, I'm going to, like I said in the beginning of the video, I'm going to link Bree's information in the description. So if you want to take her course, visit her website, visit her Instagram, okay, and connect with her. And so she can, give you guys a straight and narrow path here on your dating life. But thank you again, Bree. I will see you guys in the next video.
Hi guys, don't forget to click that subscribe button. It lets me know you're enjoying the content I'm creating for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.